Tell me a little bit about the abuse that you've experienced while you were a model.
I think the biggest abuses that models experience is just like in their confidence. Imagine your job, your only job is to apply for jobs every day, all day. But when you go to the job, they're like, you're ugly, your nose is big, your hairline's too far back. As a matter of fact, like you're a little bit fat, so you don't get the job. It's just really hard on you.
You started the modeling talent agency, right?
Yeah, I wasn't finding people with big platforms that were really talking about anything that mattered besides like, here's my cute outfit for the day. And I was like, I can't work with any of these talent.
You're famous now because Side Hustlers is on TV. Tell me about that.
I think being on that TV show and having some of the experiences that we had was one of the greatest things that's happened to me that was God-given in the past 2 years.
Welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues. I'm your host, Ali Horiat. My goal in this program is to educate our audience about various world issues and on how we can help. Today, we have Valeria, Emanuel, Val, to speak about sustainable female products and advocacy. She's the co-founder of RIF Care, which makes non-toxic female hygiene products. She also donates these to women who can't afford clean and sustainable hygiene products. And she's a huge advocate in many different ways. So we're going to get into all of that in a second. But Val, let's start with your advocacy for non-toxic women's products that are also sustainable. So what inspired you to even start RIF Care? Because your background is not in this market at all.
Yeah. And I always get asked about my background. They're like, do you do science? Or like, what was it? And I was like, no, I actually started working in influencer marketing. So I was a model for a very long time. And one thing about the modeling industry is I had to model for all of these companies. And a lot of times I just didn't agree with the company's ethics. And so I realized that I wanted to manage people, but I wanted to be a talent manager who worked with ethical companies, right? They treated models fairly, they paid models fairly, and they also had sustainable brands. So we started working with my first agency, Role Models Management, the talent agency, working with sustainable companies. We'd also advise companies if they were doing sustainability-based clothing lines or, if they were trying to help the environment or do beach cleanups, we'd help them to organize these things. We would consult with them on how they can roll out these big marketing projects. Because I think in 2017, when we started, is really when you started to see sustainable fashion. So I've always been into sustainability since I was a kid. I grew up around the beach, did beach cleanups, etc. And, my family came to the United States, my mom and my dad, in the 80s. So I felt like growing up, I was always kind of inherently sustainable just because of the way we had to live as like a low income family. And then as my family got more money, they started like just being, more consumerism, like buying things. But I kind of stuck to that. Like, no, we save our plastic bags. And, I don't eat out every night because I don't like utensils. So it was very much like on a personal level. But then once I started to have health issues, hormone issues, and I'm still going through them right now, just trying to kind of diagnose everything and find out if I have endometriosis. It's a very long journey for a woman. But when I started to go through this journey, I just realized, what am I using? I've never looked at the ingredients. I was in a relationship with someone who was very into sustainability. And so he was always talking about this. And I was switching little things and I was eating healthier, but my clothing and my period products were still questionable. And so I realized, okay, I'm going to use organic products now. But there hadn't really been any innovation. I just saw all these new brands every year. And I was like, another cotton brand. And I was like, I love hemp. I'm such a hemp advocate. Why don't we try to use hemp fiber in our products? And so that's what we did. We're the first brand to launch doing that. And we make just comfortable, high performing products that are not going to harm you or the environment. Like that is our tagline. And, we're trying to make periods better for everyone. And also the other tagline is we're helping women find balance in their cycle. So it's just like education, products, and also advocacy for women's health.
Great. So this was a personal journey, basically. It wasn't a marketing journey. It wasn't a career journey, because a lot of times, you speak with people and say, hey, how did you fall upon this? And they say, well, I was working in this company that was doing this and I found a better way to do it. And a lot of them become really successful brands because they pick out on that. But for you, it was really a personal thing. You were blessed to have people in your life to have a life that grew in the way that it did, so that you can kind of grow and learn and put what you learned into practice. That's essentially what it is. And that's what advocacy is, right? You believe in something and you put it into practice and you try to tell people about it.
Yeah.
Now, I know RIF Care is 100% women owned and obviously created. You sitting here. I want to ask a question with a twist here, which is, when people say 100% women owned, what is the value in that to you? And I ask this because in this world that, we're trying to have equality, and we're trying to have this space where it shouldn't matter if you're a man or a woman or whatever it may be that is doing the work. Everything should be equal. There should be justice. There should be fair play in every way. What does it mean to be 100% women owned?
Yeah. I mean, so to me, I think being women owned is very important. I think that, there's been a lot of talk about separating men from women, and I think we're extremely different in our needs. And especially if I'm using something on my private parts, I just want to make sure that someone with private parts has experienced using them, the same parts as me, right?
Right.
And so when I'm talking about being a women-owned company, well, first of all, there's one thing, right? Like, we haven't gone out and raised tons of venture capital. We've raised very specific capital from, friends and family. And some of those investors have been men, but in terms of shareholders right now, it's me, my co-founder, and our new partner, which I'll talk about later on. And what's really important for me is that we're only making products that we use and trust. Like, for example, someone's like, how come you guys don't make menstrual cups? And I was like, because nobody on our team uses menstrual cups. Why would I make something that doesn't apply to me? And like you said earlier, I do see companies that are like, period product companies who have male co-founders and also female co-founders. And I think, everybody has their strength, and that's good. But I also see some companies like that are making baby products with people who don't have kids. And I'm like, it's just a money play. And I think that's a little bit weird. So when I say women owned, I think it's just knowing that women are going to trust our company because tried and true, we use this stuff. And I think it's also the fact that, women only receive 2% of venture capital. And so when a woman is looking to make a purchasing decision, just knowing that there's a 98% chance or 99% chance, because, I'm also a woman of color, that venture capital is overlooking us. So your purchases into my company are what funds us. We're not like wasting people's VC dollars here. We're putting our own money. This is like our credit cards. We're shipping all the orders. We're the ones writing you the notes. We're the one responding to your DMs. Like, it's not some huge corporation. And I think it's fine if it was a huge corporation, but the core and the founding team and the founding principles are all like people who understand, because we are there every single month. I have the same experience as you, and I use my products every single month.
And that's powerful, because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, wow, I would definitely be a consumer of somebody I can look up to and say, not only do they use these products, they stand by it. And also, they understand and they teach me about my health. So regardless of women, men, or whatever kind of products, it could even be, sports shoes or something like that. When the advocate is somebody you can look up to and say, okay, that's where you want to be, then, it makes a big difference. And that's what I wanted to hear, really, because a lot of people have this marketing, spiel right now that we're women owned, or we're women this, or we hire majority women. And it's not really because you care to, it's just to be able to market your product that way. Whereas, with you, it's not. You're saying something sensible. Why would a man be explaining and designing and working in this field when they have no clue what's going on, which is absolutely right. If I was involved with you, I wouldn't be asking the questions of how does this product affect you personally versus others. I would be asking you, how much money am I going to make if I give you X amount of dollars, right? So the decision is all mired in capitalist thought. So you and your partner, how did you meet, and how did you think about, creating this kind of movement essentially with RIF Care?
Yeah.
And obviously your other side of your business too, which is all together kind of women's advocacy.
Yeah. So both of my companies have had co-founders, and I personally love having a co-founder. I am not a single pilot person, right? I don't have all the skills, and I know that. I actually started the company on my own. So I had the idea a few years ago that I was going to start a company making reusable products. And we do make a reusable product. We make period underwear. And I was like, that's what I want to do. But I just realized that like the market really wasn't there yet. And disposable products could just be made better. Like, let's make compostable disposable products, because that's where 90% of the market share is. And so as I was doing this, my best friend growing up, she's also from the West Side, like Venice Beach. And we met at a park when we were like 16, 17 years old, kind of randomly. And we started talking, and we just realized we were from the same place. We were born in the same week, in the same year. And we just like fell in love as friends. You know what I mean? And then just through the years, we've just been regular friends. We never talked about doing business together. We never talked about working together. She ended up being a scientist. I ended up working in marketing. So like there was just no thought that we would ever work together. And then I did my Kickstarter, and I was doing the business on my own. I had my first angel investment from a man actually who had a daughter. And when I started talking to him about this, he was just like, what? It blew his mind. So, but I was like, I still need more money. And she just started responding to the emails. She helped me with my Kickstarter. She was just 100% there from the beginning for me as a friend. And I was like, she is treating this like it's her own. Like she is extremely entrepreneurial, but I could see how she could be entrepreneurial. And I'm not going to lie, at first I was like scared to have her as a co-founder because she'd never done anything entrepreneurial before. But the way that she jumped in and the way that she is, I was like, she was 100,000% built to be a COO, CEO. She's an amazing co-founder. And I really do encourage people who are solo founders. Like if you are looking for that support, if you are looking for the yin to your yang, there are websites now where you can actually find co-founders. You might have a best friend. You might hire someone who ends up helping you and rolling up their sleeves and stepping into it like it's your business. But you can't just, I've met a lot of people who are like, oh, I think I want to make my friend my co-founder and like I'm paying them to help me. I was like, I'm not going to say don't pay people, but I wasn't paying Rebecca. We still really don't pay ourselves, barely. We were just doing it, and she just jumped into it like it was her thing. And then I was like, no, this has to be your thing because you're treating it like your child, you know? So that's how it worked.
And that's the passion of it. It's the same thing when I started Compassiviste. I actually made those mistakes that you just talked about. I paid people because I thought that's how it's done. Coming from a world, prior to this life of mine, where I paid people for everything, and it was for me back then in the finance world. When I had my fund and everything, it was valuable to pay people because that's how you got things done. And then when I entered this world, and it's all built on passion and compassion, it quickly became. Unfortunately, a lot of dollars lost for me to understand that I can't pay people to be passionate about something that they don't care about, that they're treating you just like this is another client I have to spend 3 hours a day on, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
So it took a while until we transitioned to having the right kind of people with the right kind of mentality, like your co-founder there, to do this. And you touched on something really important, which I want to bring up, and it's a tangent, but it's important. Earlier, I was actually speaking with my producer, and when she brought this to me and we spoke about it, she was saying, this might feel awkward. You're here talking about, women's products and stuff like this is girl talk, and you're sitting here talking about it. And I said, no. I don't look at it that way for two reasons. One, we're not talking about the experiences that you're going through. We're not sitting here talking about periods and cycles and things that are like girl stuff. And, what do you do here and there? And you need two girls to talk about that. We're not doing that. We're talking about a different angle. So I can be here talking about this. That's fine. Second, I've had friends, and people overlook this, that, for example, there's a lot of single parents in the world today. There are men who are single parents too. And these men raise daughters sometimes. Their mom could have passed away, unfortunately, again, on something you touched on because of, women's health issues, cancers that are women related, or other diseases that they didn't know, they didn't research about or whatever. It could have been a divorce, whatever it is. So that dad who's trying to raise a daughter on his own may have his mom's help or his sister or somebody, but at the end of the day, they want to be educated to give the best to their daughter. And your angel investor who came in may have been thinking, hey, this is great for my daughter. This is great. There's something that connects the father to the daughter. And so I think a lot of men should listen to people like you, because it affects the women in their lives. And when you love the women in your lives, whether it's your mom, your wife, your girlfriend, your daughter, sister, whoever it may be in your life, your best friend, it's important to kind of also have some kind of understanding or some kind of care in the events of that. So, when I know I care about certain women, I want to buy products from RIF Care, because why would I go and buy Johnson & Johnson's? Right? Because this here is true, tested. There's people advocating behind it. It goes somewhere. Even the money goes somewhere better than there, and we'll get to that in a moment. So I think it's important that men are involved promoting this kind of situation. Now,
totally. And I think one more thing I wanted to add to that is, there are conversations that are happening around women's cycles and periods and everything. And I do think that there should be a little bit of education around that, because I think the hardest times that men and women have together is like during women's menopause, because men totally don't understand what their wives are going through, and then they get divorced. And two, when guys have daughters, sisters, girlfriends, whatever, and they're going through their cycle and they're going through their hormone changes. And it's like 1 week of the month where you're like, wow, she's depressed and breaking up with me. But like, you guys should totally understand what's happening during that time of the month. So I do think men should listen to some of these conversations, just so that they understand women better.
And it shouldn't be so taboo. Right now it's so taboo to come out for a man and a woman. Like, we're talking about this comfortably here, but generally speaking, it's very taboo for me and you to sit here and talk about period issues, because no, this is not done in society. And I think the more open and the more comfortable it is, the more the father has a better relationship with their daughters as well. Or the more, that person and his girlfriend have a better relationship, because, it just breaks those stupid barriers that have been held up, holding women back for so many years. And this is part of holding women back, right? Like, you can't be a part of that culture anymore. Totally. Now, you're, continuing on that strand of you and your co-founder, you guys donate as well, aside from, being all over SoCal. And I was on your website and I saw you guys are like huge, everywhere in that area. You're branching out, so that's a good thing. And I see, there's some places around the country, around the US, that kind of has, little pockets that you guys are in now. And I'm assuming, those are going to fill up as well. And you're branching out. Now, you donate. Let's talk about how that grows.
Yeah. So one thing that we always wanted to do was have a certain amount of products that we donate. I do think that there's better ways we can do it in the future, right? But for right now, we put 10% of our inventory aside, like 10%. And this is just for donations. This is for government contracts. This is for gifting. But I would say half of that 10% goes directly towards like homeless, domestic violence, LGBTQ centers. I mean, for us, we just know that default, these places are typically just going and buying Tampax, and we think that people deserve better, right? And there's also government contracts, which we've just discovered, because there are mandates for people to, provide period products in colleges and universities. I know that like, I'm not one of those people who's like, just period products should be free everywhere and anywhere. And like, people obviously need to make money, and we need to sell products, and we need to give people choice, right? But one of these things we're doing is like doing those government contracts, trying to get those military contracts, because a lot of these nonprofits and government sectors also have budgets for these things. And so if you have a sustainable company, let me just tell you right now, they are looking for sustainable companies. They default go to the Johnson & Johnson. They default go to the Procter & Gamble to buy their soap or whatever. But you might think that you're priced out of that category because you sell a bottle of hand soap for $9.99. But the government actually might be interested in buying those things, because, the people who are working at the government agencies, are like the girls who are in these schools, don't want typically what they've been getting. So, and they have more budget for sustainable brands. So besides the donating, also the government contracts is something that we are heavily working on in 2024.
And wonderful, because I've been telling people for years, and this is back when, and there was a movie, I forget what it was called. It was about a government contract with weapons, though. It was based on a true story, War Dog or something. I don't remember. But the point of the movie was two guys from middle nowhere, fall into this situation where they can have a government contract and they go after it. I've been telling people for the longest time, don't be scared and not approach the big deals and the big markets because you think, oh, that's exactly like you said for the Procter & Gamble's and that category of people, because the people making those decisions at the end of the day are humans.
Yeah.
And if you can give them something that falls into the category of what they can afford to budget for and that they can see the value in, well, at some point, the bribes and the gifts and stuff of, those monster corporations are not going to balance with the ethics.
Yeah.
And we're slowly getting there really, quickly, because we see the wildfires, we see all the destruction and disasters, the oceans, everything, like you said in the beginning of the show. And as people in decision-making spaces, we're sitting there and we're thinking, well, you know what, it's really not worth promoting this anymore because this is just like not the right thing to do. And so I think you're right. You should go after those things because you're bringing something better to the people. And 10% donation, lovely. Now, speaking of donations, how do people help you with donations? Because a lot of people, will want to be a part of this. So what do we do?
I was wondering about that. And my advisors, Lindsay and Bob, they were like, what if someone goes to your website and it's like a man and he wants to help you donate products? And I was thinking, should I make a specific product on my website? And I'm asking you because you'd want to help that was specifically towards the donation product. And, we could chart this. We can share with people who've donated or purchased this product. Like, this is where your money went to. This is where we donated this month, because it does come out of our profits. And I think, as we do have investors and we do have to talk to them about what we're doing. And we do want to show them some type of positive story, but also we want to cover shipping. We want to make sure we can do all these things. We want to be able to give back for events or, and there was the fires in Hawaii. We sent a bunch of products to Hawaii. So we want to be able to do those things that are like kind of out of our budget because we're so small. But we do them anyway because we can't imagine not doing it. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
But I'll tell you this. A lot of times people make this mistake, and I see it. You have, a huge heart for what you're doing, and you don't have the budget to match the heart that you have. So if you won the lottery tonight, right, you're going to end up saying, you know what? Here's $1 million from my lottery. I know these things cost me, say, 99 cents. And I'm going to make 10 million of these products, 1 million of these products, 500,000, whatever I can get at whatever cost it is that you know best. And I'm going to donate them to these parts of the world. Okay, great. That's lovely, right? You're doing this. But there's two issues there. After that 1 million that you've donated and you feel really good about what you did, you cannot continue this culture. Because how many more 1 millions do you have? So that's not sustainable, which is what I find problematic about philanthropy. It's not sustainable. It's not real. It's a one-time big event for yourself to feel good. Yeah. And then after that, it's just downhill, right?
And so that's what I said about and that's kind of what I said about the products is like you see these companies and they go into places and they give women products and then they leave. Yeah. And I had an idea for a different type of project, which like I can't really talk about right now, but we tested it out. And gave some, what is it called? We gave some patterns to make period underwear to women in Libya, because I think it'd be more empowering to teach them how to make their own reusable things than for me to drop off products. Like
teach a person to fish as opposed to giving them fish. Jesus, that's exactly what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what
people,
I think.
It's not about being religious, but that's the truth of it. You teach someone, you give a person a fishing rod, they will be able to feed themselves if they are not lazy. You give a person fish, you make them lazy, even if they weren't lazy. And we work in, we work in Tanzania and some other parts in Africa as well. And we see that all the time. We work with a friend of mine, Bob Lang, amazing guy, helping the Maasai community. And he's gone in there and taught women how to create their own bank. Like it's mind-boggling the stuff he's done. But now these women manage funds in their community. We're talking 2 million Maasai, so they're managing funds in their community, and you wouldn't believe it, right? But had he gone in there with the same mentality as the larger, Red Crosses and those kind of places who come in, oh, there's a disaster, here's some food, here's a blanket, goodbye. you're really not helping. You're helping, yes, but you're not helping the long run. So I find people need to come into that space that's missing. And with your product, I really think that in the donation part of things, it's a matter of how do we sustainably organize to have this? And one of the ways I think it would be really fascinating is take your model, you guys are built. I mean, the products are out there, you have them, so you know how they're made, and replicate your model in Tanzania, for example, or in Libya, or places that you have access to, and allow them to make those, then tell people to donate to that cost. So instead of, for $100, you can buy, 50 of our products that we can ship here and all of that. No, for $100, you're giving into the annual budget of, say, $40,000 for this specific unit to produce these products with labor from, the people there who are jobless right now that you're helping feed, while at the same time giving these, products to the community and to the region. And this way, people are paying into the infrastructure. And once that infrastructure gets flowing, amazing, it becomes self-sustaining. And you don't have to sit there and say, now that we made more money, do we donate 15%? Do we donate 8%? And have these questions about how much you can really, pull yourself in the rubber band until it snaps. It's sustainable. So that's one way I'd look at this, and that's one way really we've been helping people kind of do this internationally. Now, advocacy, which is a huge part of, I think, what people should be doing in the world, because Compassiviste, again, you're really a Compassiviste, to be honest, whether you know it or not, because you're compassionate about, you're passionate about what you do, built on the compassion for other women who need your products to live a healthier life, whether they're a billionaire or whether they're homeless, like you said, in both financial inequality edges, they need your product more than they need the Johnson & Johnson. So that's one. So that's compassion for other people, and your passion to bring that, and you're an advocate for it, and you're an activist for it. So, you're sitting here talking about it. That's an activist. And you're doing the work, and you're cutting into the market share of, the corporations, like you say, who don't care. It's all about the dollar line at the bottom. So there's a lot of advocacy. There's a lot of activism. There's a ton of compassion. So that being the case, I also see you're a women's health education advocate, in the sense that you want women to know more about themselves, about their bodies, about, how things are happening, so that they can make better choices. Because without education, we're walking into the Walmarts and other places, even Whole Foods, and we're buying products that may be better priced or have better marketing on the product itself. So we're not buying with education. We're not flipping the product over and seeing what's going on in there and what we should buy. So how do you want women to educate themselves, and also about women's issues like maternal health? Is something me as I have no clue about, and I'll never go through it, and I'll never understand it. I can only support, right? I can only be a support person in the room there. But it's all about the woman going through it. So, first of all, what do you think we need to do to raise that bar? Just like the conversation we had earlier with, just this being stigma or taboo to talk about periods with men or anything else. So what do we need to do to raise women's education in a broader perspective? And how do you think we would implement this?
The first thing we need to do, and this is such a great topic and conversation, so thank you for bringing it up, is I think invest in women's health. And I feel like I'm in a world where everyone's talking about the fact that we need to invest in women's health. So like the subject to me is very familiar. But if most people don't know, we've invested more money into erectile dysfunction than we have into PMS, periods, and menopause. That's insane, because it's going to affect every single woman versus like 19% of men. And it's going to affect us for, I don't know, like 45 years as we're going through this cycle. Women's health, women's hormones affect everything about, the community, how we shop, how we show up for our families, how we age, different diseases. I mean, there's so much, and the fact that we're not putting money into it. So what's really interesting is there are companies that are trying to study this more, but they're very underfunded. And these companies that are trying to make products and medicines are not getting venture capital funding, and they are going for government funding. And this is great because we need these studies to happen. Like, we need to know what herbs and medicines could help for PMS that are not just Prozac and Xanax, right? Like, we need to know women's hormone profiles and like, what is the norm? How can we measure these things? We need better tests for endometriosis. We should not have to have endoscopic tests when there's probably a blood test that we can do. There's probably a hormone marker that we can check, right? But we don't know these things. So the average diagnosis for endometriosis, I'm saying this because it's March, so it's Endometriosis Awareness Month, is 10 years. It's a 10-year cycle to be diagnosed with this disease. 1 in 5 women have like fibroids or PCOS or some type of other, period related disorder. And why is it taking people to be in their 30s to figure this out and suffering their entire 20s, having relationships that are difficult, having work that is difficult? And I think a lot of this is caused by like environmental factors too, the reason we're getting this, but it's also genetic, and it's also just something that happens. I mean, you have to remember, like, we only used to live to the age of like 40. So even menopause is an issue that women didn't have to deal with until 200 years ago.
Right.
And so, yeah, why has everything else been studied and invested in besides this? So we use our blog. Like right now, I actually have a video that's going viral on TikTok about like what happens to women's bodies, specifically their vaginas after they give birth. And people are like, I never knew this. And I'm like, almost 4 million people now have viewed my video and they'd never heard this information before. That's like a 20th, like the whole, at this point, state of Oregon or whatever has viewed this video. And I'm like, if I put 3.8 million people in a state, you can't even fit it. So for me, I'm just like, wow, this many people need this information. We make our blogs that are very like SEO rich, so that if somebody's Googling something that's very niche, right, like they can find us. It's like fibroids, PCOS, all this information that people are not talking about. We are not experts in, we are not doctors, but we are just opening your eyes to information that you probably wouldn't have known existed, so that you can take this information and advocate yourself when you go to your doctor, when you go to your gynecologist, when you're having problems. You're not in the dark about what could be possibly going on with your body.
I have 2 points to make there, but the first is a question I want to ask you, because I find this rather often. There's a lot of censorship when you promote health products and when you have this kind of health talk, because if you're not a sort of a doctor with a certificate, you're not allowed technically in to speak about things, because it's deemed as dangerous. You may say the wrong thing or whatever, and put people in hospital as opposed to help them. But when you're only bringing awareness to an issue, you mention any of those issues that you mentioned, and you say, this is what I'm bringing awareness to. It's not like you're saying, take this medication or go get this prescription or anything like that. It's just raising awareness to people to say, hey, look, you don't need to, spend your 3 nights in bed cramped and crying because you have cramps that you don't understand why the pain is so severe about it, and just think that this is women's life and this is what you have to deal with. And you do that for 12 years, like you said, or something. And then as you're sitting there in pain scrolling, you come about this video. It's going to help you. It's going to say, hey, I just learned something. I'm calling my doctor tomorrow, and I'm going there and I'm going to see what's going on with it. But how does censorship affect our ability to get a lot more real information out there to people?
Yeah, especially in women's health companies, there's movements that are happening, because with period products, even me trying to put an ad up for a period product, I could get banned. And I'm like, it's a period product. Do you know what I mean? Or even sexual wellness products, which, people can say this or that about, but I'm like, women need sexual wellness products because they're having problems in their partnerships or problems personally. And like, lubricant should be, it's medically necessary for a lot of women. It's medically necessary depending on the stage in life that they're going through, but you can't advertise lubricant and like everyone has sex. I don't know, that these women are married and they need these types of things to feel comfortable and feel like, they're not ostracized. And so it just adds another level with women onto their health topics, where I'm ostracized so much that I can't even talk about this. But like, you can also run ads for Viagra, but you can't run ads for tampons.
Which is the second point I really want to get into, was my thoughts on that. And you're so right. I see this so often because at the end of the day, think of it this way. We're talking about equality. We're talking about, the world changing in a sense. This century, women have grown into a space of making their own money, becoming leaders and forces to reckon with in the business world. But we're still in this tradition that everything is catered to men. And we're still in this tradition of, the sex sells kind of idea for men. And so, like you said, the erectile dysfunction studies, you put a title of the solution to erectile dysfunction on your paper and put it out there. I think every man in the world, even if they don't have erectile dysfunction, they're just going to click on it because it's just, we're wired that way because of years of that kind of marketing, And so it sells. But then, you look at the women's stuff and to the marketer, to the company who's looking only to profit and nothing else, it's not going to sell as much. So the market's dictating this kind of flow that's toxic. And if we don't adjust for this sometimes, we get into these depressions economically. And it's the same here. This is an economic depression that is affecting the social world, which people are not looking into. You get what I mean? I mean, when you think about it, it's okay. 2008 happened, and then we went and we saved the banks, and everything turned out well for the wealthiest, and people went on with their lives. And now, a long time later, we may be hitting a recession again. So it keeps happening. It keeps recycling itself. But in the space of women's education, women's health, the funding for women, it shouldn't be that a woman has to fight to get funding for something that affects half of the world. And it affects them, like you said, at 100% rate for issues that affect them at 100%. Like every woman goes through periods. It's a 100% issue. Like you said, not every man goes through erectile dysfunction, or not every man wants penile enlargement, but the funding for this is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's not even kind of life-threatening. Those are issues that are not you're not going to die from either of those.
Yeah.
Right? But over here, there is a possibility you die from them. There's a possibility, severe issues happen. So, that's the sad part. And I think it takes a whole culture to change for those things to happen. And that's why we need funding in education first. I think when we have funding in education, and when education starts changing from this male dominant perspective, from school all the way to social and culture, because culturally speaking too, North America, United States, Canada, it's a mix of different kinds of people. It's a mix of different kinds of cultures. I mean, even, in the greater LA area, you've got so many different cultures living together, and they live peacefully together in business. I mean, Koreans are doing business with people from Mexico, and all types of people who are living in Southern California. But then their cultures are different, because the Korean still goes back home and has a specific culture and mindset that lives with them, and the Mexican who's in California will still have their own mindset. So you need to be able to bring those cultures to an understanding that these things matter. Yeah, and I think, that's the original funding. The original funding should be in education, which then allows us as consumers to say, I'm educated enough to know that I need more information. And that starts fueling the market for more women's studies and more health issues and all of that. This takes me to essentially, you're doing so much pioneering in the sense that you're coming out, you're bold and comfortable in saying these things can be discussed at the dinner table. These things can be discussed publicly. These things should be discussed publicly because these are real things that are happening to me as a woman at this age. And I want people to understand that it happens to every woman. Now, when you do that and when you rock the boat in that way, so to speak, you're kind of, raising eyebrows in the big corporation mindset that is not looking at these things in this way. And they're happy with the way things have been going for the last 200 years, like you mentioned. They have control over the market. They like what they see. The average woman is not fighting this. She's docile and submissive, so to speak, in the sense that you don't see that many people like you coming out and, ripping their hair out and say, I want change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we need more people like that. If we had 10 million of Val, we would be in a very different situation, right? Especially women in power. And I speak this to women in power so much. Now that you have the money, don't be complacent to the crime. Use your money for the right reasons. Use the money for the advocacy. When you die, you're not taking it with you. So before you die, make sure you burn all of it in the places that leave that legacy to make change in that sense.
Yeah.
Now,
I always tell people that.
Go ahead.
Just about having a platform. I think there's a lot of people with bigger platforms that I think could be talking about way more important stuff.
Yes. That's what I mean. I'm not going to name names, but there are some people that I am so shocked that they're not talking. And it would, and I'll tell you something. The people advising those people are generally men who are only looking at metrics and at how to blow the numbers financially, nothing else. Because if they were people who cared, even men who cared, they would not tell them to act this way. It's all just money, and that's it. It takes a specific breed of men to be that toxic. And that's the people that surround these people with the really big platforms. But that's exactly what I was going to get to, was the question of how do you think other people, who think alike, can kind of fight this uphill challenge against the big corporations? Because yes, you are selling, and yes, you are making a difference and making a change. But a lot of people say, oh, one person is not going to make a difference in the world. I think they do. I think it all starts with one person. Rosa Parks started something that caused the Malcolm X's and the Martin Luther Kings. Gandhi started something that caused a lot of change in India and its history. Mandela caused a lot of things that, later on took groups to change. So one person can ignite a fire that becomes something really, really huge. However, again, all of those people kind of had a support that allowed them to grow to make those changes. So with yourself now, if you had a platform to tell people how to support you, how to stand with you, to fight, like you said, big pharma and those brands, to make them accountable, to make them more ethical, to believe in what you're doing, and to change the ways of these marketplaces and products to be more compassionate and to activate people, essentially, what would you say?
Vote with your dollar. I mean, this is always what comes up for me, is vote with your dollar. And I know a lot of people who are knowledgeable and choose not to vote with their dollar. And I know a lot of people who don't have a lot of resources who still put it within their budget to vote with their dollar. Like for me, for example, I'm a mother who's separated, and like my budget is not what it used to be. Like I have to really budget with my groceries and like everyone else, thinking about everything, the shopping and everything. But still, when I go to the grocery store and I see 2 different brands of tahini and one's private label and one's women owned, I'm going to buy the women owned one. And it's $2 more. But I know that this is a small company with women from the Middle East, and like I want to support them. I want to support this brand of cereal that's not owned by Kellogg. I want to support. So that's how I do it. I think that is the easiest way, is to support small businesses, because also with small businesses, we're agile, right? We're not a huge corporation that has to, like, it takes us years to make a turn. With a small company, if a customer gives me feedback, I can make a change within my product within 3 months. If something in my supply chain is off, when we made our period underwear, for example, there was all this, uproar about PFAs being in period underwear. And so we paused the release of those period underwear for 3 months so that we can make sure that we had a PFA free supply chain, right? So as a small company, we can do those things. And this is why you should give your money to small companies. And just make sure that they really are doing the things they say they're doing. But the more money they have, the better they can do. And so that's buying their products. That's also engaging with them on social media. If you don't buy their products, like, there are men who love following us and they like give us nice comments, and that helps boost the algorithm, which helps other women find us. Even if you never shop with us and you sign up for our newsletter, you at least get an educational blog every week. You might not have a period. I know, people in menopause are like, I can't buy any of your products, but like I'll buy it for my granddaughter eventually, or I'll give it to my daughter, or I'll just send them this information, or I'll just save this video or share this video. That's helpful.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because donating, your dollars to the right cause, essentially, whether I call it donating because you're purposing it to something more than purchase. When you're buying something, you're spending because it's just consumption. But when you're donating, you're buying something, but there's a reason you're buying that, like you said. And generally speaking, I don't want to say every company, but generally speaking, for the large part, and I've never seen otherwise, small companies basically come into the marketplace because they have something good to offer. They're not companies who come out and say, we found a way to, use really cheap chemicals to put together to come here and sell this tahini, like you said, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to make it for 10 cents and we're going to sell it for $2 because that's what it goes in the market. And we're going to make a killing. That really isn't the way it works. And if they did have that kind of recipe, generally they would be bought out by the larger corporations that they pitch to. They're not coming out with it. They take their science and they go to your, Kellogg and other places and they say, hey, we have this. What do you think? And they'll say, here's a check. Boom, done. They're never coming out and kind of doing what you're doing, essentially, and fighting it. So you're absolutely right. We're on the same page there again. I say this all the time, spend your money. And I get tired saying that because people sometimes tell me, they're like, Ali, in this case, for example, they're going to tell me, Ali, but like, I'm a single dude. Like, what am I going to do on a period website? And I say, you know what? Don't even read it. Subscribe or, get the newsletter and put it in your junk mail. I don't care. Even if you're that ignorant, I don't care. But at least you're adding numbers. At least you're saying, I'll support this. Even if you don't care, at least you're saying, you should care. But even if you're that ignorant, do that. Do that. That's the least you can do. And I think that's very important. And
well, don't put it in your junk mail though. Subscribe and then forward it to a women forward it to. But I'm just talking, at the most ignorant level that you can be. That's the worst you can do. But you should still subscribe. That's what I'm trying to say. Even if you were going to trash it, you should still subscribe. It's kind of like you go to the grocery store. I see this all the time. So recently in the situation in Gaza, a lot of grocery stores, they have this raise funding for food, or put some items here and we'll send it to Gaza for food. And I say, that's great. It's great that you're taking the initiatives, and it's great that people are putting foods and stuff in there. But when I look at this bucket of food, a lot of it is the big corporations who have bought into this and said, hey, look, there's going to be a run. People are, kind-hearted. They're going to donate. So let's put a lot of our products in the front aisle there, right next to that area. So people reach out and put it in there, and it's all garbage product. Well, you know what? When you're going and buying the better products for yourself, just buy the same ones that, one, you're supporting people like Val, and two, you're giving those people over there who are, in turmoil and disaster, better products, better food, better quality stuff. So as you're helping them survive, you're not also giving them cancer. I really believe in a lot of those things. And I think that's what people should do. They should really be involved in that. And continuing with your advocacy, you started the modeling talent agency, right? Yes.
That's what it was originally. And then it kind of like digressed and went different ways. Now, before we get into what it's become, what you're doing, how you're helping people, and it's not just for women, but people in general, tell me a little bit about your the abuse that you've experienced while you were a model.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest abuse is that models experience is just like in their confidence. And I guess this is something people really don't understand is, imagine your job, your only job is to apply for jobs every day, all day. But when you go to the job, they're like, you're ugly, your nose is big, your hairline's too far back. And as a matter of fact, like you're a little bit fat, so you don't get the job. And like you experience that every single day. And we do this because we're trying to, sell clothing to people, or with actors, they want to be in movies or TV shows, but it's just really hard on you. And also, I just didn't realize when I was even in the industry that there were so many things that were happening that were inappropriate, like the treatment of people on set. You're there, you're trying to make movies, you're trying to make TV shows, and just the way that people would be treated and talked to. And just there's a lot of really grumpy people in the industry. And there's a lot of stuff that's also coming out about the music industry right now that I won't get into. But we know that there's a lot of corrupt people who are basically trying to spew just really negative thoughts and beliefs into society and into the culture, like very unwholesome ideas into the culture. And so I just wanted to
act. It's not just ideas; these are acts.
Yeah.
You mentioned the music industry; they're actual acts that you're not going to get into. But I know what you're talking about. So it's disgusting.
Exactly.
Go on.
Yeah. And it's very sad. There's, a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of sexual blackmail, a lot of these things. I even made a video on, a social media platform that got 250,000 views on the first day about like how I had met and dated someone who was friends with Jeffrey Epstein and like kind of what that experience was for me. I was 21 years old. I didn't really know much. And that video was demonetized same day because even like the higher ups at that social media platform were like, oh, we can't have this information out there. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot. There's a lot. And even with my agency, it's kind of downgraded to a consultancy or like upgraded to being something different, right? Because people are like, oh, you don't manage models anymore. I'm like, no, I just help the clients that we used to work with. But even in, we wanted to sell the agency potentially. It's like the people who come out of the woodwork who would want to buy a talent agency are most times these very, very wealthy men who don't want, who just want to have something where they own an agency that models are at. And I was like, that is so weird, but that's just what the industry is. So having talent that was very much anti what the industry is right now and very pro small companies, pro sustainable companies, pro companies that were transparent in the way they were doing everything, right? Like we weren't abusing their workers. They didn't have like sexual abuse going on within their companies. This was just super important to me. So I truly believe that what we did was 100% mission driven. We work with some of the biggest companies in the world and also some upcoming companies who didn't have big budgets and tons of money. Mm-hmm. And we found value in working with all of them. But I think number one is like we wanted our talent to be safe, and we wanted to work with companies where the campaigns had a purpose.
You yourself were in a campaign with a purpose, a sustainability campaign. They blew up. I think it was in the late 2010s before the pandemic.
Oh, right?
Yeah. I remember.
We did. I did this billboard and it was,
yes,
I know it was Recycle Across America.
Yes,
and
exactly.
It's so funny because my friend kind of put me up for that billboard, and I was in there with like A-list celebrities, and I just done the movie like straight out of Compton. And so I was like, oh, I don't really know why they're putting me in this, but sure. And I mean, I was like, oh, they see me as someone important in sustainability. And so I just need to take my ego out of it. Like I'm not good enough and I'm not an A-list celebrity. And all these people are like on the top TV shows in the world, and just be like, oh no, wait, they see me in this category and they see me as an influencer in this category. So thank you for reminding me. I'm like, I should repost that video just for fun.
Yeah, because I remember, when your name came about, we need to do something with Val and we need to kind of support what she's doing. The first thing I said, wait, hold on. I know this girl. And it was like, where, how? And I said, wait, she did this I remember she did this campaign. And then I was like, it was something. And I forgot the actress's name at the time who did it with you. And I said, the comedy mom, she was the one, she's in a lot of comedy movies and she's a mom always. And so one thing led to another. I had to Google to find it. And I was like, there you go. That's Val. And everyone's like, oh yeah, it is Val. I was like, see, I remember the face.
Go look up the Let's Recycle Right campaign, everyone. Let's Recycle Right, Val Emanuel, and you will see me and you'll see all the other talent that they're talking about.
And so that was that one. And then I started thinking, hey, has she been involved in this kind of stuff like for a long time, but like kind of silently or kind of coming up in the world for a long time? Because like now she has the power, now she has the placement, and she's really coming into herself and really, doing things with RIF Care, with her advocacy, with the videos and content she puts out and everything. So it could be, like you said, that movie gave leverage to that campaign, gave leverage to something else, and boom, you grew. And then growing in that environment, you must have gone through some really nasty stuff for you to come out and say, no, we need an agency that can protect people, because I'm not letting other people go through, for example, what I've seen or what I've been through myself or things like that, which is not in a sense of abuse, sexual abuse or anything like that. But our publishing house started that way. I had a publishing contract with a large publishing company, and they destroyed everything I wrote. And they told me what I can and cannot say. They told me so many things that I have to do, kind of like a dictatorship. And I said, wait, this is my art. This is my feelings. This is everything I put into this. So this can't work. And I walked away. But I was lucky enough, I was blessed to be able to say no financially. A lot of people are waiting for the day that they can get published so that they can pay all the back rent and all the credit card bills that have piled up and everything else. And they have to feed their family and all those things. So these authors, they can't be in that position to say no. So they have to sell. They have to say, okay, I'll do whatever you want. Please just give me that check, that royalty check. And so I started the publishing house for that purpose, to protect authors and their art. And you really are saying that you started this agency to protect people from those kind of stories that become, tabloid and big news, and, the Jeff Epsteins and other things of the world, slowly and gradually, right? And that what you're doing, it's kind of like a protection agency versus a talent agency. That's what I'll call it from now on.
Totally. I love that.
Val's protection agency, because that's what you're doing. You're coming there like a mom who's been in the industry herself and knows, not to mess around, which is what you see a lot with celebrities. The second generation, they're getting movies, they're getting in there, but you see that the growth is such a different pattern than what their parents went through, because they've been through that hell. They've done those things, right? Whether willing or not, forced or abused or raped or whatever it may be, they've gone through all those cycles. And now they're like, no, you're not doing that to my child. So that's what you're doing. You're coming in for all the people who don't have prior parental experiences in the industry and saying, wait, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. And I'm going to protect you this way and that way. So
and fight for them, fight for
too.
Fight for them, and fighting for rates and wages that were fair also. But what's so funny is when I started the agency, my friend's like, oh, you get to be surrounded by hot male models every day. And I was like, they feel like my sons. Do you know what I mean? I was like, the way that I'm working, I was like, these feel like my sons. Like none of them, I was like, that is so weird. I've never thought about any of them like that. I feel like a protective mom with all of these guys.
I can see that. Talking to you, I can see where you're coming from with that, because you're absolutely right too. You touched on that earlier. I have heard stories of people buying into, modeling agencies, or even buying into, investing in a movie. Why? Because they get to be on the yacht party with the models, or they get to be, that kind of stuff. And they're like, that's my ticket into potentially dating one of those girls, or potentially meeting that actress or something. And it's amazing how, this is their kind of party money, so to speak, buying into that agency. And then, when the Jeff Epstein stuff happens, you realize this happens more often than not. And it's as dirty as you really can think about it. So, again, there's one Val doing this. There needs to be, at least 100 Vals in California alone to protect and support. So again, everybody try to support, anybody in the arts industry or in any kind of industry who's looking to work, who's looking for somebody to protect them, call Val, blow up her phone, because that's what it's about. You need that kind of protection. Speaking of your fame, you have Side Hustlers. Yes, you're famous now because Side Hustlers is on TV. Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh. So we just all summer of 2023, me and my co-founder were filming a reality show called Side Hustlers. It is a show that follows 6 entrepreneurs. We basically compete for a chance to get investment from supermodel Ashley Graham or investor Emma Grede. She's also the partner Emma Grede in, Skims and Kindly and the Kardashian companies. And it was a really interesting experience. When we started RIF Care, I knew that I wanted it to be a talent-led brand, and I didn't know how that would happen. So I started having conversations with some of the biggest talent agencies in the world. And I was really trying to find aligned celebrities who believed in women's health, sustainability, or could talk about taboo subjects, right? Like I was like, I'm pretty open with who I want. But like we said earlier, I wasn't finding people with big platforms that were really talking about anything that mattered besides like, here's my cute outfit for the day. And I was like, I can't work with any of these talent. And then some other talent that were great, but they were doing too much. They had like lots of other brands. So we got contacted actually by a casting director to apply. I didn't see any I think, we had done so much with marketing and social media. I've been in so many different women's groups that they somehow found us, which is why I tell people, put yourself out there because people will come to you with opportunities. And they got us on the show. And I think from the day we walked in, we realized like, wow, we were hand chosen. This is definitely God's plan for us to be here. And Ashley Graham actually she was on our top 10 celebrities that we would want to work with. So the fact that she was in the show for us was just like, the manifestation of this is insane, right? It's like we'd already been kind of roundabout talking to agencies she's involved in. And then she was on the show and we're like, so we get a TV show and we get to possibly get investment from her. So I want you guys to watch the show to see what ended up happening. But, it did end up being really good for us in the end. And the show came out yesterday, March 1st. We are seeing people come to the website. Our web traffic is way up. We're seeing sales come from the show. And I just hope that we keep on with this momentum because we've been a very small company. We haven't taken tons of investment. We haven't raised money to like, oh, let's go put money into ads and like run all this money on ads and PR. So this is kind of our big first marketing push.
And you are famous.
Oh my God. That's so fun. Well, every once in a while, someone recognizes me from social media. Like I'm in the gym or I'll like be at the grocery store and they'll be like, I think I follow you on TikTok. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Yeah. But like, I mean, think about such
a following.
Oh my God. I mean, between the platforms, I probably have like 108,000 followers now, but I'm like, oh, I make long form content, right? I'm not one of those creators who makes like short 6-second dancing videos. I make like 10-minute videos. So when people watch my things, they're like creating a little bit more of a connection, right?
Yes.
And so I think it's really cool.
And it's meaningful, right? That's what I like about it. Like you said, everybody has an area that they work in. I mean, the TikTok really blew up with the people who did those 10-second dance videos. I mean, that's how it started. And the most followed are still, I think, the same crowd. But at the end of the day, there's a space and a time and a place for everything. And you're doing the content that, like you said, in 5 minutes, I can learn so much about things I'd absolutely no clue about that I need to know, which is plausible. It's kind of, I want that kind of stuff in my life as well. I want the education in my life as well. And I want to know how I can be part of that movement, because there's only so much I can spend my money on things to, for my day to go by happily. I want to invest in things that bring in some change and make the world a better place. And you're one of those people who provides that, and does that. And now, like you said, there are people who see you and say, hey, I think I follow you or I know you or something, or I've watched your videos and whatnot. Those interactions obviously touch you because you understand that your content is valuable in the way that you want it to be valuable, because it's not somebody coming to you and say, hey, I saw you in that movie and I don't know, you look really sexy. And you're like, oh, that's not what I want to hear. You know what I mean? That's not the kind of things people are telling you. People aren't telling you, that. They're telling you things that you want to hear. So
totally. They're like, oh my God, I'm now using organic period products. So they're like, oh my God, you did a video about like how to fall asleep and how to, kind of lay low at nighttime. And now I started taking melatonin and CBD and I feel amazing. And I'm like, that makes me so happy. Exactly. I don't want you to know about my outfit for the day. And if I do talk about my outfit, it's always sustainable or thrifted or something like that, or like high quality. And I'm talking about why I'm using natural materials. Like that's what I want to promote.
Exactly. And so you must feel good when that comes back to you and you see the positivity that it's causing. If you had to quickly think of one incident that gave you the biggest morale boost for you to kind of really continue and push on and say, no, this is a message from God, from the universe that I need to push with everything that I'm doing. Which one was that? What was that interaction?
I think it's an interaction that's on the TV show Side Hustlers. So if you watch Side Hustlers, you're going to see. I feel like me and my co-founder are lucky charms. I truly do. And I think that we manifest everything that we've ever set out to manifest. It doesn't always happen how we think it's going to happen, right? Like the money doesn't always, I'm like, we were going to make $1 million in our second year. Okay, didn't happen. But we got the chance of a lifetime to be on a TV show, which like, okay, so we could definitely happen this year. We're on track for it to happen this year. But I think being on that TV show and having some of the experiences that we had was one of the greatest things that's happened to me that was God-given in the past 2 years.
Great. And how has that changed you? How do you, after that show, the year that's been from that summer till now, the 6 months that have gone by, what has changed?
Yeah, I think my confidence as an entrepreneur has really been lifted. I think as an entrepreneur, what you should do is every few months, write down the accomplishments that you've done and then also write down the learnings, right? So, I mean, we get people who leave us reviews and leave us comments. So we can see what people like and what people don't like. And that's really important for the business. But I think you have to do a personal inventory as well and kind of go through everything you've been doing. What's not been working? What about your team's not been working? How do you feel like you can be a better leader? Is there a way that you're expressing yourself that you feel like you can change? Is there a way that, for me a few months ago, it was like, look, I know that my content about wellness doesn't get the most views. Sometimes my beauty content does, but that's what I want to lean into. So I'm going to keep leaning into it. And then 5 months later, it is now paying off, where I'm like, okay, this is the niche that I want to get into. So just my confidence has been really lifted. And then the whole experience helped it to lift my confidence more, because I'm also like, women are going to watch this and this is going to make them a more confident, badass boss. And that's amazing too.
Lovely. How do people, other than obviously, your social media is your forte to get in touch with people and be kind of communicating with everyone, your audience and everybody else. What do you think the future will look like in terms of your engagement with the world? And when I say that, I mean, with RIF Care, with other things that you're getting into, even with your, protection agency, so to speak. How do you see yourself growing, and how do you see yourself how do people get involved in a sense with you to make those things grow? Because both of them, as far apart as they are in terms of, what they focus on, are very needed in all societies, not just, the US, but all societies.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of connections in women's health. I have a lot of connections in the entertainment industry. So I love when people DM me and ask me questions and follow me and comment, because let's start a dialogue here. I might not know the answers, but let's try to figure out how I can create content with someone who does know the answers. Like next week, I'm making content with a doctor and a pharmacist about some women's health stuff. So follow us, definitely follow me personally. Be part of the dialogue. I love when I see you guys sharing about different things that we talk about and creating your own content. Even if you have 10 followers, that is more than enough to join in on the conversations. Like you said, we're talking about this, but it's still so niche, you have no idea. So I think just joining in on the conversations and letting us know what you'd like to see from us next in terms of a company with RIF Care and in terms of my own personal content is extremely helpful, because I don't want to be creating content in a void, right? I don't want to be making products in a void. I don't want to make things and talk about things that are not helping people. So it's really helpful for me to hear from you. Can
I be the first? And I'm going to make a suggestion. Underwear. You're so close to underwear that I think it's just so natural for you to branch out there, because, when I looked at your site, and it's really well designed too. I love the colors. I love the feel of it. There's just such a happiness on the site as well, and I like that. It doesn't have to be like, I don't know, an academic grade website where it's just like the products are there and, but it was very well done. Artistically, it was very well done. So good job on that. But I think if I had to make a suggestion, the next would be take all of that I've been educated about, and I'm telling all the women I know, hey, you know what, you should look at this, and I'm forwarding this website, and they're like, why on earth do you even have access to this website? That's the first question that comes about. They're like, and I say, oh, because Val was on the show, and I learned so much, and and she's coming on the show, and I learned so much about all this stuff, and I had to do a little bit of research. So I went into this. I love the website too, aside from the products, but I really think it helps, and so I do that. But then I think to myself, well, if I was on Val's board, I would slowly start to integrate into underwear in that sustainable, organic, high quality, because I do that with merchandise. I always tell people, do you know buying a cotton t-shirt versus buying an organic cotton t-shirt is a world of a difference in the water consumption required. I mean, that's important. We're running out of water. I mean, we were just talking about water a few days ago, and there's no more water. I mean, we're almost, bathing and drinking sewage water. That's where we're reaching, right? And so you need to start thinking about what you buy and what you wear and stuff. And you're already there. I mean, people who are shopping from you are already shopping from you because they care and they understand the science that you're coming with, right? So I think it's just very natural for them to transition into, okay, I'm buying these pads, I'm buying this, and I'll buy these, bundle of underwear as well, or bras, or whatever it is.
I think the goal for the future is 1000% for us to be the brand that you trust with everything intimate. So that's just where I think our brand is part of 1000%. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And you're going to make some men's stuff too, so I can shop there as well. I'm not just.
We're going to do a Skims play and just like switch to boxer briefs. That's so funny. Like who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. Well, Val, last thing. Give me all the spaces where people can connect with you, from the websites, the social media handles, everything, so people know where to reach Val.
Yeah. So if you have a Roku TV, you can catch our brand on Side Hustlers on Roku, featuring RIF Care, Ashley Graham and Emma Greed. You can follow us at RIF Care. You can also go to our website, rifcare.com, RIFCARE. And then you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Malibu Mama __.
Malibu Mama. Easy to remember. Mm-hmm. Val, thank you very much. I really, I can't tell you enough how proud I am to know you, because it really gives me more purpose to do what I'm doing. When I started what I'm doing, I come from a very successful finance background. I gave it all away. And I said, I need to be in something that has legacy attached to it. And to be part of something that has legacy attached to it, you need people who are doing that, right? You can't build legacy from nothing. And so what I'm trying to do is promote and support people like yourself. And when I see a woman brave enough to do that and not, sell out to the opportunities that are there financially, to just, walk into those and do that, it really gives me a lot of renewed energy, so to speak, to continue doing what I do. And you are a huge minority with such a great voice and stuff. And I'll be honest, you're, like you said, you're a woman of color, you're a single mom, and it's to see you doing all those things and breaking out in all those ways is just fabulous. It's just amazing. So a role model, so to speak, a real role model for people to look up to and say, hey, you know what? Look at how she is doing all of this. It's amazing. It's powerful. It's something that everybody should be able to kind of be a part of. So I'm really, really proud of you, and not proud in the sense that I'm an important person and I'm proud, so you should be happy that I'm proud, but proud as a brother and a sister. I'm really proud that you're here doing that. You could have been doing a lot of other things that I know you would have made tons more money from. Okay. I'm not going to get into that, but it's the truth of the world today. And you're doing all the right things. And I love when I see women doing those things, because it breaks that mold as well. It breaks the mold of submission to, all the wrong reasons. So thank you a million times over for this. And as Compassiviste Foundation, we're definitely going to be involved with you. We're definitely going to stay in touch. And for everybody listening and watching, we're 100% going to be involved with the donation part of what you're doing to fund a lot more of these donations and to support that growth of, dedicating a part of your inventory to the donations, but not as donations, but as the community's support for you to be able to do this. Because I don't believe you should suffer more and more to be kinder and kinder. If people care, they should all contribute to your kindness. And that's how things grow sustainably. So we're for sure going to support you, and we're going to be a part of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. We're going to be seeing a lot more of you in the world, and we're going to champion you, and we're going to support you as much as we can. So thank you very much, Emanuel. And I encourage everyone tuned in to visit her social media and the RIF Care website. Subscribe to that newsletter, buy something. Even if you're not a woman, go on the website and buy something, because it doesn't matter. You're supporting something good, and give it to people you know. You know no woman. You feel awkward walking to, your brother's home and giving your sister-in-law a bag of women's products. Don't do that. Give it to a donation center. Give it to a women's shelter. Do whatever you want with it. But the point is, support these kind of movements, because that's how the world gets better. So tune in to her spaces and do that. rifcare.com, mandatory visit, and must buy something from there. And subscribe to our podcast channel and share this interview, because I think it matters. And for all the women out there, follow our content. It's educational. You need it. Follow us on social media so we can bring more people like Val to you. And thank you for being here and helping us change the world with people like Val. I'm Ali Horia.